Today, we are going to try freeze drying a family favorite, frozen blueberries. Hi, I'm Kylene and I'm the Provident Prepper. Today we are going to try freeze drying frozen blueberries. Now if you're freeze drying fresh blueberries, I understand that you either need to cut them or poke every single one. I'm really hoping that I don't have to do that with the frozen blueberries, but time will tell. A 5-pound bag of blueberries was the ideal amount to fill all 4 of these trays for the medium-sized freeze dryer. So we'll go stick those in the freeze dryer and see what happens. Do you love my blue hands? Yeah, I'd wear gloves next time.
This is blueberries. It took 2,047, so about a day and a half to finish this, and it took about 17 kilowatt hours. We just pulled the blueberries out of the freeze dryer and they look really good. They have a dry texture, and don't tell her, but I've already snuck some and they're really very tasty. I think it has concentrated the flavors, but they look pretty much like blueberries, and they are ready to come off and be put into containers for long-term storage, as well as some for today.
I'm choosing to wear gloves because when I put the frozen blueberries on the tray, I totally stained my hand. And quite frankly, whenever you package food storage, best practices would be to wear gloves, but most of the time I don't. I just wash my hands a lot. So I'm gonna taste one of these, and you, I understand, already did. They kind of have the texture of Cocoa Puffs, quite frankly, but the flavor is delicious. And these are actually better than the other freeze-dried ones that we bought. I wonder why. Because, I mean, you would think blueberries are blueberries, and it's not like we grew these on our own. And that happens a lot when we grow things on our own. A lot of times it's sweeter than anything that you can buy because you don't harvest them until they're in their peak of ripeness, right? So the flavor is just amazing. But okay, it looks like we yielded 1 quart-size bag from each tray, roughly. And I still think these gusseted bags that we got are absolutely the best for this. They're incredibly thick, and I love how they open at the bottom. They just make it so much more convenient. Labeling is always really important, even in this case where you can see through here. We want to label. That 5-pound bag of blueberries yielded 3 quart-size Mylar bags, along with 1 pint jar and some blueberries, where we're gonna make Ben's favorite coffee cake in just a minute using these freeze-dried berries. But in the meantime...
And some in my belly.
Okay, and some in his belly. So in the meantime, okay, these still feel just a little bit hard.
Mostly hydrated, but still need a few minutes.
Okay, now we're gonna whip up this quick coffee cake for Ben. Ben is pretty picky about his diet, and he only eats whole grains, and he won't eat any refined sugars, so honey works. But in this, we've got freshly ground whole wheat flour, some baking soda, salt, and baking powder. And I'll just mix those quickly together. Now, when I put the honey, whenever I'm using honey, I always put the oil in the dish first so that the honey doesn't stick to it, and I measure it that way. And then I also added the vanilla in here, and I'm going to add the eggs just with the other wet ingredients, just so that I combine all of the wet ingredients together a little bit at least before I put them in with the dry ingredients. The honey sometimes is a little bit hard to mix in, but you just give it a minute and it's okay. And we'll just combine this. This turns out to be kind of a real thick dough. All right, so you can see the dough. It's really nice and thick. And then at this point, I'm gonna add our freeze-dried blueberries. With this recipe, I add all kinds of different fruit and it just depends on my mood. But today we're gonna try the blueberries. And then these are just chopped almonds actually, but you could use any kind of nuts. So this recipe is very heavy on the fruit, which is delightful. Super easy to throw together out of basic food storage ingredients. We had the eggs from our chickens, so we had fresh eggs, but you could totally use freeze-dried eggs or an egg substitute if you needed to. And it's all spread out and ready to go in the oven. We'll bake this at 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on when it looks like it's done. Okay, the cake's out of the oven. It is all from food storage with the exception of the eggs, which are part of our food storage, but you could always substitute that in yours. But this is how you can eat if you store the right kinds of foods, right? Even with the most basic ingredients. And like I said, this is whole wheat because that's all that Ben will eat, and it has honey instead of refined sugars in it. But what do you boys think?
Very good. Very, very tasty.
All right, there you have it. So, freeze-dried blueberries, the 5-pound frozen bag yielded all of these 3-quart size Mylar bags and this pint size, which should store in our food storage for at least 10 to 15 years, maybe longer, maybe up to 20. So I'm pretty excited. What do you guys think?
Very good. Very good.
It's very hot, but it's very good.
All right. And now for the question of the day. What's your favorite food storage recipe? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.